Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here, the Watchman, and we're coming back at you today with an exciting interview with none other than Mr. L.A. Marzulli. L.A., thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, great to be here, Mike. Always good to see your face, even if it's via Google Hangouts. Thank you.
And the same goes right back at you. You know, we got a lot to talk about, folks, today, not the least of which is sometime soon here in the future, LA and I will be opening up a restaurant called Marzulli's on Main, where we will be serving wonderful Italian food and prophecy updates. No, I'm just kidding you.
Well, actually, Mike, let me pick that up. We've got some specials at Marzulli's today. We've got some Nephilim pasta with giant meatballs. Goliath meatballs. I think you'll find that very interesting. And of course, we've got fake fairy fettuccine, one of our favorite dishes that the folks seem to enjoy. So, you know, we also have UFO burgers for people that want more of a traditional fare. And, you know, we're excited about that. And it's always good to be dining at Marzulli's. What can I tell you?
And then we'll roll this out, folks, across the country. There'll be the Marzulli's on Main in every town across America. It's serious. A lot going on in the world today. And, you know, LA is doing some incredible research. I mean, this man truly uncovers, discovers, and informs you about a wide variety of topics. But he's got a new DVD that's coming out. He just got it in today. We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to let you know, LA and myself will be at the Occupy conference in Canton, Ohio. It begins a week from Friday. Going to be a really fun gathering, a lot of great fellowship, get a chance to actually talk and meet LA and spend some time with him and hear about some of the things that he's doing. And today, what I want to get into with you, LA, is your new DVD. It's the Fatima series that you're doing. Talk to us about that.
Well, it's called Fatima 2: Strange Phenomena, as you can see right here. And I've been talking about it. People go, well, why should I care about something that happened 100 years ago? Because in our research, and I show this in the film, both in Fatima 1, Harbinger of Deception, and of course, Fatima 2: Strange Phenomenon. And the reason why even the average Christian should be aware and concerned about what happened 100 years ago is because it's repeating in modernity. And I show that in the film. Towards the very end of the film, one of the last things that you'll see is a compilation of so-called sun miracles and apparitions happening within the last 20, 25, 30 years. It's all off YouTube, and you listen to the people who are witnessing this, who are experiencing it, complete pandemonium, utter chaos. No one is rebuking first, asking questions later. No one is testing the spirits. They're seeing something supernatural. There's no doubt about that. They have no idea how to deal with it. It's already here. So the fact that something happened 100 years ago, which has been dressed up and completely managed by the powers that be, and I say that with all due respect, people can believe what they want to believe. I'm not trying to twist anyone's arm here, but we've done 2 films. I've spent hundreds of hours researching, and you know, it's one thing to read books and everything else. It's everything to go to the place and see it, to talk to the people, to go back and interview people that have spent decades, literally decades, researching the event. And what was interesting, Mike, and we talk about this obviously in the film, I've always wondered whether, you know, surely there were cameramen, and there were in Portugal at the time. And I'm saying, you know, the phenomena that happened there lasted between 12 and 14 minutes, okay? And so it wasn't this little quick bing and over. 12, 14 minutes. There was a photographer in the field. His name was Joshua Benolio. I didn't know that till just fairly recently, like in the last 6 months. And he shot 12 photographs while the crowd was there. Jose Machado has written a book called Miracle of the Sun, which we published. These pictures, when you show it in the book, but also in the film, have never been seen before in America. And a very few people in Portugal have seen the pictures. Here's something interesting. Jose Machado sat down with Fina Diarmada. Fina Diarmada she She passed away several years ago. We interviewed her daughter for the film, and she's just amazing, Frederica Claro de Armada. And Fina de Armada had access to the sanctuary. The sanctuary in Fatima is where all the records were kept, okay? The 1917 handwritten records. So she had access. And what she saw there was greatly troubling, because the 1917 handwritten records by the parish priest was not jibing at all with the official records. There was a disparity between what the witnesses were saying and what we've been told about it. And this piqued my interest, and we did a deep dive there. Jose Machado had access in Fatima, Portugal, to the original glass plates, little glass plates like this, okay? He had access to them. First of all, he's a professor of semiotics. What does a professor of semiotics do? They look at films, they look at movies, that's what they do. And he teaches this, okay? They analyze these things. So he's got access to these pictures, which, and to the best of my knowledge, no one's had access to them before, all right? And he writes this little book, which we publish. What he finds in D107, photograph D as in dog 107, is not a smudge, is not a chemical burn. It's intrinsic in the plate. And what it is a circular object directly above the apparition site, over the crowd, directly above the apparition site. It's there. It's intrinsic in the glass plate. So he sat down with Fina several years back and presented this to a very well-known series on Portugal TV. And I won't mention the name. That episode was never aired because the producers and the higher-ups, which we found out later, were tied into the Catholic Church, specifically Opus Dei, right? Sort of the strong arm of the Catholic Church, said it was too controversial. We can't air it. So all that information was kept from the people. So we've got it. We published Jose's book. It's available on the website, lamarzulli.net or the WatchmenChronicles.com, Watchman Chronicles. And I guarantee you, when you look at that, to me, it's a smoking gun. You've got to be your own judge. But this thing is there. It's a round disc-like object. And then you get into the eyewitness testimonies that said, I looked up and saw a dull silver disc. Dull silver disc is used over and over and over again. And there are phenomena that happen in that field in Fatima in 1917, which have nothing to do with an apparition from God, in my opinion. The hoods of automobiles flew up. Gasoline spontaneously combusted. Car windshields shattered. People who were standing there looking up as this thing came over them experienced burns on their face and on their hands and arms, okay? There was this strange, like, white material that fell over the crowd that they call rose petals. It wasn't rose petals. We see everything I just mentioned ties right back into modern day UFO encounters. Everything, all of it. You know, from gasoline combusting, cars stop working, hoods flying up, all those different phenomena happen when people encounter UFOs. So why is it important? Not only is it blow the lid off of what happened in 1917, which in my opinion was a harbinger of deception, but it brings it into modernity. We are seeing it now. And with Fox News, from December to April, almost, at first it was about every 30 days. Now it's 10 to 15 days. Someone on Fox, mostly Tucker Carlson, comes out with yet more UFO disclosure. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. It's imperative that Christians understand and know the times that we're living in. Fatima 2, lamarzulli.net or the WatchmenChronicles.com. You can get it there. We've got all sorts of bonuses and giveaways and a whole deal. So check it out, folks.
Get on there, folks, and take a look at this. This is important information. As L.A. mentioned, you will see constantly now more disclosure about the UFO phenomenon. But L.A., you brought up a good point, which is what, as Christians, do we do with this information that we're getting? And are you going to be talking about some of that in Akron, Ohio? I mean, I will be doing, Ohio?
Yeah, I'll be doing the same presentation that I gave it here, the Watchmen, believing that many people in Canton did not make it down to that. And the presentation, first of all, is a DNA evidence. We talk about that, the elongated skulls from Paracas. We talk about the DNA evidence, what it was, which I find absolutely fascinating. All this is under the same umbrella of the dark side. This is all from the fallen cherub, i.e. Satan, the dragon. All of it is. And what we're doing is we're destroying the works of the devil, which is what Jesus tells us to do, by the way. We're destroying the works of the devil by exposing this. So I'll be talking about the DNA evidence. Then I'll talk about Fatima 1, Fatima 2, both of those together. Then I'll tie it into modernity, into the present day, with the modern day UFO ongoing phenomena, which just won't go away. And people got to understand something, that disclosure happened in December. And, you know, people want to, you know, look, here's my tinfoil hat, okay, right here. Here's my tinfoil hat. I always keep it handy. But you know what? Tucker Carlson said, you know, maybe these people aren't so crazy. Maybe these people that have been telling us about this for years, they should be awarded something instead of, you know, being called tinfoil hat people. And the reason why? Because it's real. Because the phenomena, UFOs, are real, burgeoning, and not going away. The church dithers, won't talk about it. The church won't talk about our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, what's going on in Washington with Zuckerberg. I mean, pastors need to begin. I'm a pastor. Pastors need to begin to stand up and warn the flock. They didn't do it in Germany, and look what happened. Everybody was afraid. Well, that has nothing to do with Jesus. It has everything to do with Jesus, because pretty soon you might not be able to talk about Jesus, because that'll be considered hate speech. Don't believe me? Watch what's going on with Zuckerberg in Washington. You know, how do you define hate speech, right? We are under attack, folks. They are, the powers that be, the deep state, are trying to dismantle our country right by right by right. If the founding fathers showed up today in Washington, D.C. and saw these huge, hold on, unbelievable, I'll get it, Tonto, and saw that these government programs which stretch on into infinity, saw what government has become, Jefferson would take his wig off and burn it. I mean, that's where we're at. That's how crazy this whole thing. Remember, we fought the Revolutionary War to be free from onerous taxes. Now we are completely burdened with taxes. Oh, they talk about this big tax relief. Now we've got the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with our government, a bunch of independent private bankers setting interest rates. We lost everything that our founding fathers fought for, except the Constitution. And you know what? When someone like Mueller can go and raid the President of the United States office, we are so far down. This is like Stalin-esque. I mean, why, you know, comrade, why don't I wear the little, you know, hammer and sickle here and the little hat and start calling everybody comrade? I mean, that's where we are. It's Stalin-esque, it's draconian. And after 15, 16 months, Mueller has nothing on Russian involvement here, Russian collusion. I mean, that's what he was hired to do. If you can't find it, now it's just a big witch hunt. Find something, quick. Find something. Let's impeach this guy. And this is the deep state that's doing it. Pastors need to stand up and warn their flock of what is going on. Because I got to tell you something, midterms of this year, and if we don't keep the House and the Senate, all is lost. Trust me. You know those tax reforms we just got? Say goodbye to that. And more onerous spending, and on it will go. Pastors need to warn. The church is the greatest sleeping giant in this country, despite, you know, Obama. Hey, America is not a Christian nation anymore. Excuse me, Barack, it is a Christian nation. And that's what voted Donald Trump in. So pastors, if you're listening to this, you know, grow a pair, seriously, and warn your congregation of what's going on. I will be doing that, as you can see. Not only will I be talking about all this at the conference, and can't wait to do that in Canton, but I'm at PPS Report, at Acceleration Radio. I mean, I'm on fire because I see the country I love being bamboozled by a bunch of weasels.
Well, you know what? We're on that topic, and you brought up the Russians. Look what's going on right now in Syria. I mean, we're saber rattling back and forth with the Russians. Syria is only, I think, 9 hours by vehicle from the border of Israel. Is what is happening over there in your mind, in your humble opinion, is it biblical in nature?
First of all, Syria borders the southeastern western border, southwestern border of Syria borders Israel. So, I mean, there are the Golan Heights. Without the Golan Heights, Israel would be utterly defenseless. That's why they won't give them back. They know the head of the snake. Yeah, I mean, is it Psalm 83? Is it Ezekiel 38? Is it a combination? And no one knows. The bottom line is, you know, we've all been here before. We've seen this. I've watched it very carefully for 38 years as a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, because the biblical prophetic narrative talks about these countries. Look, Turkey and Russia, Iran, there's a nexus there between these countries, and that figures right into the Ezekiel 38 war. But then we could be looking at Bill Salas's, a great friend of mine. He's going to spend a couple of days here on the weekend with us, with his lovely wife Tony, and can't wait to see Bill. We're launching a new series called the Marsalis Report, Marzulli Salas, Mars Salas Report. So we're going to be doing that on a weekly basis because things are heating up, and we feel the need to get our opinion out from a biblical viewpoint. And yeah, look, this stuff is happening. And look, Israel will never be removed from the land again. That's number one. Number two, Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel. Jerusalem is mentioned hundreds of times in the Bible. It's never mentioned once in the Quran. So the whole idea of a Palestinian people has been invented over the last, 50 years, 60 years, whatever. There is no such thing as a Palestinian people. They're indistinguishable from many of the other Arabs around. And the Palestinians already have their homeland. It's called Jordan, and that's where they all should go. But they won't do that. And this whole thing is because the Jews are there. And in Islam, most Americans don't know this. When Islam conquers an area, that's it. It has to remain under Islam. And if somehow the infidel take it back, then you've got to wage jihad until that land is captured. Because the idea in Islam is to create a caliphate over the entire planet. That's what they want. That's the end game in Islam. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. So the idea that, the two-state solution is absolutely a joke. There is no two-state solution. There never will be. Mahmoud Abbas stated very plainly that, we all know where he's at, and he's not a friend of Israel. Hamas is not a friend of Israel. Hezbollah, all these people were sworn enemies of Israel. The Jews are the chosen people. From Abraham's loins sprung the Messiah, and we're grafted in. So, in my opinion, if we start seeing something, start looking up, for your redemption draweth nigh. We're going to be called out of here at some point. I don't know when. And people, take it for what it's worth. People want to argue about the rapture. And one cool thing about the Hear the Watchmen conferences is no one does that. We've got all these people from all these different denominations, different viewpoints, different interpretations of Scripture, and we all kind of get along. They'll know each other by the love that you have for one another, and that's what happens at the Hear the Watchmen conferences. Because there's people there that are pre, mid, and post, and that don't believe it at all. They're all millennialists, and on and on it goes. And look, I don't really get involved in that. I'm staunchly pre. I can't wait to go up. But we are told to destroy the works of the devil. That's what we're told to do. Destroy the works of the devil. That's what Jesus says. Destroy spread the gospel. But by spreading the gospel, you destroy the works of the devil. Some of us, like Russ Disdar, will be speaking at Canton, and myself, and this is not for everybody, and I get that. But we go out and we dig up this stuff. I mean, we do research on the supernatural, and we bring it back to you. And Russ does it, I do it, other people do it, but I'm in the field constantly, and I'll be in the field again in Ohio, filming there, and then in the near future we've got another overseas trip, and we'll be filming some very interesting things over there when we get over there in August.
Well, LA, you're on fire, brother. And thanks for all the words you said, all the great work you're doing. I too love Bill Salas. I think, what a great pairing that'll be. Yeah. That'll be one of the things we offer at Marzulli's on Main, is a pairing of Marzulli and Salas, that you can get that.
Get a little more Salas right there.
Right. Yeah, a little more Salas, But I'm just excited. I'm excited about seeing you in Ohio. And folks, if you're not going to be in Ohio, and especially if you live up and down the Eastern Seaboard, be sure to come to Hear the Watchmen, Long Island, New York, where we're going to discuss lifting the veil. LA will be there. Russ will be there. Derek and Sharon Gilbert will be there. The list goes on. Henry Groover will be back with us there. And, you know, we're doing a trip to Montauk, and LA is going to be a part of that trip. It's going to be a fascinating journey to go out there to what's been turned into a park of all things, but to talk about what happened in Montauk and spend the day fellowshipping together. Just go to hearthewatchman.com, check in there, and we hope to see you in August 9th through 11th in Long Island, New York. LA, can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
In Canton, Ohio. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
My pleasure.
Today. I know you need to get back to cooking Nephilim meatballs.
Goliath meatballs.
Yeah, we really appreciate
Nephilim pasta with Goliath meatballs. You gotta love it.
You know, you're out there. Keep up the good work. And folks, until we see you next time here on the Watchman's Report, don't forget, you can do anything with except nothing at all. Get out there to activate your faith for Jesus and do it today. We'll see you next time here on the Watchman's Report.